Welcome to this deep dive on a really hot topic these days. It's cell phones in schools and social media for kids. We've got some great sources to work with today, especially this one from Project Plain Talk. It's to ban or not to ban from their Digitech debate segment.
Oh, yeah, that one really gets you thinking, huh?
Yeah, it does. And the question everyone seems to be asking is, should we just ban these technologies outright, or is there a better way?
Well, the first thing that struck me going through these materials was how global this whole conversation is.
Oh, in what way?
Well, you've got everything here from South Korea's Cinderella laws. Those are limiting kids' gaming hours. You've got France and China trying to curb social media use for kids. And then there's Australia. They just went and banned social media altogether for anyone under 16.
Wow, that's a big move.
Yeah, it is. And then closer to home, there's California with their Phone-Free Schools Act. They're really trying to cut down on classroom distractions.
So it looks like different places are tackling this in different ways.
Exactly. And there's no easy answer. But a lot of these initiatives, they stress the need for stakeholder involvement, which I think is really important.
Like getting teachers and parents, even the students themselves involved in the conversation before you go and make any strict rules.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what each community needs, right? Because each one is different. And that ties into one of the main points in to ban or not to ban, which is the potential harm these technologies can do.
You mean the harm to learning and mental well-being?
Yeah, to ban or not to ban really lays out how all that screen time can affect kids' attention spans, how it messes up their sleep, and how it can even make them more anxious and depressed.
It's true. I know if I spend too long doom scrolling on my phone, I definitely don't feel great afterward.
Oh, yeah, me too. It's hard to resist sometimes.
It really is. But think about all that pressure on kids today. The article talks about the constant online world as a pressure cooker,
Yeah.
and then you add cyberbullying on top of that. It's a whole other level of stress that we didn't have to deal with growing up.
That's a really good point. You're right. It's like the schoolyard never closes. It's constant.
And this whole thing got me thinking about Jean Twenge's book on iGen. She describes this generation as less rebellious, but much more anxious, and they're always on their devices. Is there a connection, do you think?
I think Twenge's research raises some really important questions about how screen time might be linked to all these mental health issues in young people. We need to be looking into that very carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of how young people use technology, I thought Alexander Samuel's breakdown of the three types of users was fascinating.
Oh, yeah, the digital orphans, the digital exiles, and the digital heirs.
Right. Each one is so different.
Yeah.
The digital orphans have tons of access to technology, but they don't have much guidance. So they might end up struggling with social skills.
Yeah, and then you have the digital exiles. They've been raised with very little tech, so later on they might overcompensate and have a hard time finding that balance.
And then there are the digital heirs. They've got those tech-savvy mentors guiding them. So they're developing strong online skills, but then they might not understand kids who aren't as connected.
It's true. Every type faces its own challenges and opportunities in our digital world.
Right. So this whole debate can't just be about banning or not banning technology. It's about giving every young person the tools they need to thrive in this digital world, no matter what their background is.
I totally agree.
It sounds like what we really need is a global game plan.
You mean like what they talk about in to ban or not to ban?
Yeah, having parents, governments, educators, tech companies all working together to guide and protect kids online.
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility in this digital age.
And it's interesting because the source also talks about the needs of students with disabilities. It makes the point that technology can be both a barrier and a bridge, depending on the student and how it's used.
Yeah, and that actually leads perfectly into this idea of reimagining education for the digital age. We have to adapt if we're going to prepare students for the future.
Yeah, we really do have to adapt. I mean, think about it. We're trying to prepare these kids for a world that's so driven by technology, but we're still kind of stuck in these old ways of teaching.
Right, like we're teaching them to sail, but the world is using speedboats and mega yachts.
Exactly. And to ban or not to ban really makes this point that these old teaching methods, they just don't cut it anymore. All that focus on memorizing facts and stuff, like that's not really useful in a world where information is right there at your fingertips.
So how do we bridge that gap then? what does a reimagined education system even look like?
Well, the source talks about shifting our focus to those higher order thinking skills. Critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, collaboration. Those are the skills that are going to be essential for these kids, no matter what they end up doing.
So it's not about memorizing facts anymore. It's about learning how to learn. Exactly. It's about being able to adapt to think critically and creatively. And it's about recognizing that learning isn't confined to the classroom anymore. Kids are learning all the time everywhere, especially in these digital spaces.
Which brings us back to making sure they have the tools to navigate those spaces safely and responsibly.
Right. And to ban or not to ban talks about going beyond just teaching them about online predators and fake news. It's about helping them develop good digital judgment so they can think critically about all that information they see online.
It's like we need to teach them how to be savvy consumers of information, both online and off.
Yes, exactly. And it's also about fostering digital empathy.
Digital empathy.
What's that? It's their ability to connect with people online in a meaningful way, to build relationships and contribute to online communities in a positive way.
Oh, I see. That's so important. Because the online world can be just as complex as the offline world. There are just as many opportunities for connection, but there are also a lot of potential pitfalls.
Exactly. And we have a responsibility as adults to guide young people through all that complexity.
So we're not just protecting them, but we're also empowering them to be good digital citizens.
Exactly. And it all starts with communication. Talking to them about their online experiences, listening to their concerns, and really validating their perspectives.
So creating a safe space where they feel comfortable asking questions and sharing their experiences without being judged.
Exactly. It's all about building trust and understanding.
And it's also about us as adults setting a good example, right? Modeling responsible digital behavior ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Kids are always watching us. They learn from our actions more than our words.
Yeah.
So if we're always on our phones scrolling through social media or getting into arguments online, they're going to think that's normal.
Right. It's like the old do as I say, not as I do approach. We all know that doesn't work.
Nope, definitely not. So we have to walk the walk when it comes to digital citizenship. Setting boundaries, prioritizing face-to-face interactions, taking breaks from our screens, all that good stuff.
It's about finding that balance between the online world and the offline world.
Exactly. And helping young people find that balance too. Because let's face it, the digital world isn't going anywhere.
It's only going to become more integrated into our lives as technology keeps evolving.
Right. So instead of being afraid of it or trying to resist it, we need to embrace it. But we need to do it thoughtfully and strategically. We need to understand both the benefits and the risks.
Embrace it thoughtfully.
Yeah.
I like that. So it's not about just accepting every new technology that comes along, but it's about looking at it critically, asking questions, making informed decisions about how we want to use it in our lives and in the lives of our kids.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, technology is just a tool. It can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide how we use it, how we shape it, and how we make sure it serves humanity, not the other way around.
Well said. Okay, so to recap, we've talked about the need for reimagining education in the digital age and about how to help young people develop digital intelligence and responsibility. We've talked about open communication, modeling positive behavior, and finding a healthy balance between our online and offline lives.